Lauren Southern talked about the horror of her life as a tradwife, traditional wife. She said that it was abusive and terrible. And this caused people like Vaush to say things like, oh, this is an own on conservatives or traditional marriage. Is it? Are tradwives a bad thing? Is it wrong to have a wife that is just a traditional wife who's a mother and all of that? We're going to talk about that today, and I've got my friend Tyler Redmond to help me out. So I'm here with Tyler Redmond. He hasn't been on the channel in a long time.
I thought you were going to do the intro later.
Yeah. No, the intro of the video, not the intro of you.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Vaush. You know Vaush?
I don't.
Yeah, I know. Tyler doesn't know about this stuff like I do. He doesn't spend all day on YouTube like I do. Vaush reacted to Lauren Southern. We've read the article. I'll link the article in the description if you want to read it. I mean, it's a lot of nonsense, but she wrote this article about being a tradwife. Trad means a traditional wife. She left the public sphere from being a political commentator, YouTuber, and stuff like that to be just a traditional wife. I think she lived in Australia with her husband. And long story short, ended up being a very abusive situation. And so some people are blaming it on traditional marriage. They're blaming it on conservatism, whatever you want to call it, biblical values.
Unsurprising but very sad, conservative quote-unquote tradwife influencer Lauren Southern discovered being in a traditional marriage felt like being enslaved, and she felt compelled to rationalize her husband's behavior. Wow, really?
By the way, if at any point you want me to pause it, just tell me.
Is that true? Is that true? Really? Dude, Lauren Southern was like the poster child of, listen, young women, you don't want feminism, you want to be a tradwife. And you know what, honestly? I guess some credit for writing about how the lions did in fact eat her face. I mean, is it a bit? Thousands of miles from friends and family.
He's saying the lions ate her face in the sense that, like, she created this narrative that this is a good kind of marriage situation, traditional wives and stuff like that, traditional husbands, masculinity, all that. And then this is what happens to her marriage.
Family, she reports becoming the closest thing to a modern-day Western slave. With no income of her own, she had to do everything. The lawns, the house, the cooking, the baby care, the university homework. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't have the support. There was no help changing diapers. There was no help waking up in the night with the baby.
She did her husband's university homework. She did his college homework.
Apparently, I married the wrong person.
Yeah,
I had to do my own homework.
I'd still have to get up to make breakfast before work. I'd be shaky and nervous for fear I'm going to get yelled at. Then he'd berate her for spending all her time on tasks other than earning money. I was told daily that I was worthless, pathetic, dead weight. This is the tradwife fantasy that all the 19-year-old TikTok girls who are tired of having to work a minimum wage job are fantasizing about. If you guys think that like the like median experience of a marriage in the 1950s was one of mutual love and happiness, then you're genuinely deluded. Okay, even
all right, that's kind of controversial. What do you think about that? He says if you think about the general marital couple, and I don't know what the statistics are on like abuse or whatever, but just anecdotally from what you and I have experienced, would you say that the average marriage situation was a really bad, toxic thing like in the 50s and 60s?
No, not at all. I haven't seen a whole lot of examples of that. In fact, the ones that I have seen are loving relationships, relationships that last for decades even. And so I don't know what his example is.
Yeah, because we know people that have been married for 60 years, and that's very close to the 50s. We know people that have been married for a long time, and I don't see that kind of toxicity kind of stuff, right?
No, not at all. In fact, most of the relationships coming out of that era that I have been associated with at all, they are actually very maternal and kind of driven by the wife. And so I don't know what his sample size is.
Yeah, and we're like, if there's ever been tradwives, we know a lot of tradwives, like 80, 90-year-old tradwives of 60 years.
Yeah.
So if anyone's going to have a decent sample size, it's got to be us.
Yeah.
In the churches that we work in, have a lot of people in that age.
Well, here's what I don't get. So she is talking about all these things that went wrong in the lifestyle that she has chosen, this conservative tradwife lifestyle. Every single one of those problems stems from the partner that she chose to live life with.
He sounded like a jerk.
Every single one.
Sounded like a terrible person. I mean,
I have no support. What about your husband?
I know what she says. I still have to get up. No help with the baby. Still have to get up, make breakfast before work. I'd be shaking and nervous for fear I'm going to get yelled at. Again, that sounds like more of a representation of her husband than her the marriage dichotomy.
Yep.
That she used to promote. What she used to promote doesn't sound like what she got into.
Today, in an era of no fault and pretty frequent divorce, marriages are very often not happy. Like, seriously, think of all of the like other people you knew growing up and all of their parents. How many of their parents had really dynamics, like, relationship wise, right? Yeah. Sorry, so many marriages keep going purely for their kids. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying marriage is innately bad or doesn't work for everyone, but like the tradwife thing in particular is and it always was, and people are being duped into it again because of like 1950s appliance advertisements where you see a woman smiling in a painting where she's showing off a new toaster or something. Like, you're literally getting baited into cultural regression because there were good advertisement painters in the 50s.
You know what's funny about what he said? He just said, look at your friends and all their parents and how messed up their marriages are, right? And then he goes, but if you go back to what marriages used to be in 1950s, that's cultural regression.
Yeah.
He's saying that they're bad today. And then back then he goes, oh, but that's really bad. That's cultural regression. But
it must have been bad back then because they're really bad now.
Yeah, no, the logic would work if the marriages were way better today. Yeah. But they're really bad today.
Yeah. But if you think about it, so this tradwife concept from the 50s that some people are living in today, and they're having bad experiences. But if marriage, and he would agree with us on this, that marriage as an institution today is worse off than it was in the 50s. And so if we've progressively gone away from this tradwife lifestyle and marriage is junk now, why do you think that is?
Yeah. The state of marriages is worse today.
Yeah.
And again, he's saying, like, I don't disagree with marriage in and of itself. I guess he thinks that he has that today we figured out a better way to do marriage than in the past. But at the same time, again, he's saying that marriages are worse today.
Is he going to share that with us?
I know. I hope he does. He's going to talk about it a little bit.
Jesus. So can somebody link me the full article, by the way? All you do is sit around, take care of the baby, and do chores. When COVID shut down all real-world public life, her situation became hell on earth. It was, she said, the only time in my life where I idealized dying. There were warning signs from early on. If I ever disagreed with him in any capacity, he'd just disappear for days at a time. I remember there were
That sounds like every wife I know, huh?
Yeah.
All our traditional wives.
Yep.
Your wife is a mom full-time, and then my wife is a mom full-time, and that's what we do, right? You disagree with your wife?
Yeah.
Just go on a long weekend with the boys or something.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah, that's totally normal.
That's where he'd call me worthless and pathetic, then get in his car and leave. But she didn't see them thanks to the simplified anti-feminist ideology she'd absorbed and promoted. I had this delusional view of relationships that only women could be the ones to make or break them and men can do no wrong, so she didn't spot the red flags even as they grew more extreme. He'd lock me out of the house. I remember having to knock on the neighbor's door on rainy nights because he'd get upset and drive off without unlocking the house. It was very strange to go from being this public figure on stage with people clapping to the girl crying, knocking on someone's door with no home to get into, being abandoned with a baby.
Does that sound like the typical marriage situation that you see?
No, not at
Again,
I
we know real tradwives.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of these. Now, a lot could be happening behind closed doors. You know, people sometimes are a certain way out in public or on Sunday mornings. But I have, as a minister, we're kind of privy to, especially within our congregations, information that maybe not the rest of the public is privy to. I have yet to hear of even one of these, so I don't imagine that it's all that common.
Like she's getting kicked out, or husband's leaving for days at a time just because they had a disagreement. If I ever disagreed with him in any capacity, he'd just disappear. If I had a day where my wife and I didn't disagree in any capacity, I'd be like, there's a clone. There's like an imposter in my wife's body. What is going on?
Right.
And we're going to have disagreements.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when you're recalling a dark time in your life, and you're writing an article about it, might you exaggerate just a hair?
Yeah. And so I had this delusional view of relationships that only women could be the ones that make or break them. Who says that?
I've never heard that.
Who says that?
It takes two.
Nobody makes that argument.
No.
Again, we preach for very conservative churches, and we're conservative people in that sense, in our families and things like that. Who says this?
I've never heard
that
it.
If a marriage, have you ever been to a marriage seminar? You guys had one. where the person speaking at the marriage seminar goes, hey, I mean, husbands, you guys don't really have to listen to this. This is all about the wife.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to make or break the marriage.
No, if anything, it's more the responsibility of the husband to make sure that these things are not happening within the marriage and the
Yes. Yeah.
A few weeks after the birth of their baby, she did not want to leave her support networks behind, but he used the political and religious importance she placed on lifelong marriage as a lever to force her to agree. Whenever I wouldn't do something, he would say, I'm going to divorce you. So feeling she had no other option, she assented.
Sounds like a normal day in your house too, huh?
Yeah, just a normal Tuesday. But every single argument, at least so far, has been because of this guy.
Yeah, he sounds like a horrible guy. I was told daily that I was worthless, pathetic, dead weight. Again, sounds like a normal day in my house.
That has nothing to do with conservative tradwife values.
Yeah.
There are so many men like this. This is what a lot of men want. They want to find strong women and break them. That's what they like. They see a woman who has like a job or is a high earner or is confident, and they see that as a challenge because it would be like more rewarding to subjugate them. Then they subjugate the woman and make her like respectfully pathetic, which is what Lauren seems to be here.
I feel like he's giving men way too much credit. That takes a lot of forethought, a lot of work. I mean, to train that. I mean, I'd rather just pick the right woman in the beginning than have to deal with all that.
Yeah,
but
I think the kind of guy that he's describing though is not like, well, maybe in a way this could happen, but he's describing like an Andrew Tate type of guy. He's not describing like you and me.
No.
And again, our wives are stay-at-home mothers.
by choice, by the way.
Yeah, by choice. My choice. They're stay-at-home mothers. And that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy about that. And our values align completely on that. The kind of guy that he's describing, like, I want a strong woman so that I can break her, or I want a woman that I will just be steamroll and I will, she'll have no say. She'll just be an instrument of taking care of the house and children. That's like the red pill Andrew Tate kind of stuff. That's not real conservative, loving husbands.
Yeah. And, for those of you that are dating someone that you're thinking about marrying, these are conversations to have before you enter into that relationship. What's it going to look like when our house has children in it? Am I going to continue to work? Am I going to stay home? I mean, like, you got to have these conversations so that you're on the same page when you get to that point.
We have seen marriages in turmoil. We've talked to people who have difficult marriages in very conservative, traditional circles. We're not seeing these husbands that are going, I'm so bored because now I've totally demoralized her and dominated every aspect of our relationship. And I mean, I guess now I want to demoralize another woman.
I don't know anybody that's their objective. I'm sure there may be some that introspectively that's their objective, but
yeah. If trad life or trad wife means traditional wife, it doesn't seem like a really good representation of traditional marriage. It's this bad straw man. There is a way to do this, but the thing that you need is two people love one another and they want to serve one another in this way.
Yeah.
And it's not a toxic guy like this. That's not loving your wife.
He's more the exception than the rule when it comes to this lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you're sacrificial and you put your spouse above yourself each and every day with every decision that you make, then you're going to be in a more loving relationship with a more positive outcome in the end anyways.
Yeah.
So.
No part of me, and I know I can say the same thing for you, no part of me sees what this guy did, and I'm like, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds so horrible, man.
Yeah. Let's make that happen like next week.
I know.
That sounds great. Put it on the calendar, babe.
Yeah.
This is when things are going to change.
In actual traditional, the definition of traditional as we live it out, that's not what it is at all.
Pick the right person. Pick the right person. And I know surprises happen when you get into a marriage, but like, have these conversations and you'll be just fine.
Let us know what you think. Are we wrong? Are we dumb? Are we like just totally dominated by our wives? Is that why we're
maybe?
But
wouldn't that be like opposite?
Are we the tradwives?
Yeah, the trad.
Do you wash dishes at home?
Yeah,
we the tradwives?
Last night I was washing dishes. That's because we have sacrificial love for our wives and not a domineering personality.
Yeah, it's so sad that people think this way. There's so many happy relationships people could have, but this is how they think the world works.
Yeah,
it's so sad. But let us know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon, and I love you. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.